The date is Tuesday, June 16. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom. As at Tuesday morning, 4 new COVID-19 infections have been reported in Jamaica, bringing the totals to 621. The Ministry of Health says the new cases are a 47-year-old male of a Manchester address, a 47-year-old female from Hanover, and a 30-year-old male of a Westmoreland address, and a 16-year-old female who is from St. Anne. The individuals arrived on flights from the United States. Imported cases of the COVID-19 novel coronavirus in Jamaica have increased to 120. The Bustamante Children's Hospital has received a boost in safety quota of gears being used in the fight against the novel coronavirus pandemic. Personal protective equipment valued at more than $10,000 has been donated by the German embassy. Speaking at the handover ceremony on Monday at the German Embassy in Kingston, Senior Medical Officer at the hospital, Dr. Michelle-Ann Richards-Dawson, said the team will put the gear to good use as they continue to serve Jamaicans. The Bustamante Hospital for Children is the only specialist pediatric facility in the English-speaking Caribbean, catering to the medical needs of children in Jamaica and the wider region up to 12 years old. Approximately 74,000 students locally are registered to sit the CSEC and CAPE exams, which are slated for July. Minister with responsibility for education, Carl Samuda, provided an update at a recent virtual press brief at Jamaica House.
Approximately 74,000 students are registered to sit CSEC and CAPE examinations. School reopened on June the 8th. And will continue until July the 3rd to facilitate preparation for the examinations. There were some minor glitches, however, as you would well expect, because we keep emphasizing that we're trying our best to get it right, but we won't get everything right. But I can say confidently that through the leadership of the Permanent Secretary, Dr. McLean, the Chief Education Officer, Dr. Troop, and other members of staff, including Ms. Chin, who is here, we have been able to have what I would regard as a very successful year.
Mr. Samuda also outlined the steps taken by the ministry to sensitize students to the new paradigms brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic.
In terms of the preparation, a manual was prepared for schools to guide their preparedness for students returning to the classroom. School leaders participated in a rigorous virtual training exercise with the Ministry of Health, who, as I said last week, were extremely helpful. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information provided the necessary support to enable schools to sensitize the children, teachers, and to sanitize ahead of the reopening. We also provided items such as infrared thermometers, masks, and disinfectants to the schools. Inspections were carried out to ensure schools are adhering to the protocols established.
Schools were partially reopened on June 8 to allow senior students to complete their preparation for the regional exams. Since mid-March, schools were forced to switch to virtual and remote learning, owing to the physical closure of schools as part of the anti-COVID-19 measures. President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Lenworth Fulton, says the reopening of tourism industry will be good for the country's farmers. The agricultural sector lost millions of dollars during the closure of hotels over the last 3 months, arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. After reports of positive cases in Jamaica announced on March 10, the Jamaican government responded by closing the country's borders to inbound travelers in order to avoid mass infections, effectively shutting down the tourism industry, which provides a significant market outlet for local produce, meat and eggs. Despite the dry spell now being experienced in local agriculture, Mr. Fulton says farmers will be able to meet the demands of the tourism sector. Mr. Fulton also endorsed initiatives by the Ministry of Agriculture to assist small farmers in light of challenges being experienced because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the dry spell. Agriculture Minister Audley Shaw last month said, among other things, an additional $1 billion had been allocated to the ministry's Productivity Incentive Program to assist small farmers. Sugar Company of Jamaica Managing Director Joseph Shuker recently met with farmers of Eastern St. Thomas. He toured the area to discuss with them how they could be incorporated in SCJ's plans to develop former sugarlands in that parish. We get more in this report from Marlon Samuels.
The parish of St. Thomas has had mixed fortunes in recent years for agriculture. In January of this year, the government announced $200 million to assist sugarcane farmers in St. Thomas, who have been negatively affected by the closure of the Golden Grove Sugar Factory. However, some small farmers who now occupy farmer sugar lands are complaining about eviction notices.
So we're there a long time.
Because before it came out of production,
and since cane show up, we have the land. We have them half before Eastern shut down because we plant canal. When bird they here and I run the place, instead of we plant canal, don't light no fire and it we use. Till cane, we still a work a plant canal. And then we farm from and then we eat from, then we send we picnic at school out of. So we need to get some out of big food.
We need to get the land to work, to establish yourself, spread the wings.
I just wanted to say.
If we even have to pay, we're willing to pay with lease, but you can't come and just chew we out so if just the big man come, if we come put cow. Then how we are going to survive around here? Nothing around here. Cow alone can't help. We cow no for we. Where we have a for we, left something for we. It is not fair. We need justice.
True.
In response, the SCJ head, Joseph Shuker, toured sections of the Eastern Parish. He was accompanied by members of the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, as well as Member of Parliament Dr. Fenton Ferguson.
How we can accommodate them in the plans for the development of the former sugarlands in Eastern St. Thomas. I represent Minister Shaw and his ministry on this mission. SCJ Holdings Limited is the landowner on behalf of the government. And at the invitation of Dr. Ferguson, I came out to have a first-hand look at the state of affairs on the land. Now, it is clear to me that there is active and good farming taking place, albeit scattered. There has to be some rationalization down the road. Suffice it to say that the government has no intention of disrupting farmers who are engaged in productive activities. But we have to find a way where farmers can remain where they are, cultivating and using land productively, and still be able to accommodate larger investors who can provide employment to residents of the area who are in need of employment, especially since the closure of Eastern Banana and now the sugar factory at Lowenfield. So I will come back in 2 weeks' time at Dr. Ferguson's invitation, at this time to take the particulars of the farmers and to assure them that they will not be thrown off the land and that they will be allowed to continue their genuine farming activities for the benefit of themselves and their communities.
I am pleased thus far in the way it's going, and I want to congratulate Mr. Shuker and his team, ably led, for having the patience in going through and seeing what has happened and also listening to the farmers.
Mr. Shuker addressed the threats of eviction for the farmers.
By SCJ Holdings Limited or by the government to tell any farmer that they must come off the land. No such action has been taken to this date. Okay? So whoever is doing so does so on their own. No decision has been made for farmers to leave their lands. I don't say a time will not come when we will engage farmers and say, look, you have 2 acres here. Perhaps when you reap what you have on the ground, we could put you at a different place with other farmers where you can operate in a collective manner for the betterment of all.
So the standing now is that farmers
remain where they are.
Remain there, farm there until when?
Until further discussions are had with the MP, with the ministry, and with the stakeholders, and decisions made as to the way forward.
In the coming months, the SCJ will unveil further plans for the lands under their control. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
The Registrar General's Department, RGD, wants more clients to use its online services. It is working to increase use from 40% to 60%. The move comes as the department looks to strategically shift and enhance the number of services available to Jamaicans on its online platform. Chief Executive Officer at the RGD, Charlton McFarlane, said that the department is looking to add the updating of records to its offerings. Currently, people can apply for birth, death and marriage certificates as well as access to burial orders electronically at rgd.gov.jm. The only exception is for birth and death certificates where registration of the event took place within 10 working days prior to the date of application. Those requests must be made at the RGD's head office at Twickenham Park in St. Catherine or any branch located island-wide. Residents in several corporate area communities are set to experience a significant improvement in their water supply as the replaced Ferry 600mm diameter pipeline is now in operation. The new system serves communities along Washington Boulevard up to Don Robin Avenue, where it intersects with the recently commissioned transmission main that was laid alongside Constant Spring Road. Among the communities to be positively impacted are Washington Gardens, along Mullines Road areas, Upper Waltham, Seaward Drive and Olympic Way. A section of the pipeline that was previously constructed along Washington Boulevard has also been activated. It's envisioned that this will reduce the frequency of breakages, thus improving service delivery. We now get the business report from Gabriel Thompson.
In Monday's trading session, the JSE combined index declined by 2,369 points to close at under 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 75 stocks, of which 30 advanced, 37 declined, and 8 traded firm. The junior market index declined by 32 points to close at under 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for Barita Investments Limited, CSEC 2000 9.5%, and Cargo Handlers Limited. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments Limited, Access Financial Services, and CAC 2000 Limited. Trading firm were Blue Power Group, Siboney Group Limited, and Derrimon Trading Company Limited. Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited was the volume leader with 5.6 million units, followed by Sagicor Select Funds Limited Manufacturing and Distribution with 3.1 million units, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with 2.1 million units. Now for the foreign exchange. The US dollar on Monday, June 15, ended trading at $140.83. The Canadian dollar sold for an average $105.03. The pound sterling traded for $180.81, and the euro ended trading at $163.57. Oil prices rose on Tuesday, with Brent crude rising above $40 a barrel as the IEA increased its oil demand forecast for 2020 and as record supply cuts supported. Brent crude futures rose 77 cents to $40.49 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures gained 61 cents to settle at $37.73 a barrel. And that's it for the business report on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
In regional news, in 2019, Hurricane Dorian ravaged the Bahamas, killing at least 70 persons. One of the hardest hit islands was Abaco, and today some 279 residents are listed as missing. Last week, former Health Minister Dwayne Sands criticized the government for its handling of those missing in the passage of the hurricane. In a statement Monday, National Security Minister Marvin Dames blasted his former cabinet colleague for his comments. We get more in this ZNS News report.
Former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands' recent comments about the mishandling of lives lost or deemed missing post-Hurricane Dorian ruffling some feathers. Sands' former cabinet colleague, National Security Minister the Honourable Marvin Dames, firing back in a lengthy statement, first charging that he's both shocked and profoundly disappointed, adding that whether intentional or unintentional, the Elizabeth MP's comments are misleading. Now, according to the minister, from the onset, it was a known fact that some people in search of missing relatives were making reports to agencies, organizations other than the police. The police, in turn, compiles a centralized list totaling 1,092 people, 34 from Grand Bahama and 1,058 from Abaco. At no time, notes the release, was there any attempt by the police or anyone else to delete any names off the list without first performing due diligence. Minister Dames making it clear that if the former minister or anyone else has information to prove otherwise, make it public.
Over in Guyana, the 2020 general and regional elections lacked credibility, according to Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield. Last Saturday, he presented his report on the national recount to Chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, GECOM, and the 6th Elections Commissioner. The report detailed widespread fraud and pointed to 4,864 cases of voter impersonation and more than 2,000 anomalies that have impacted well over 200,000 votes across the 10 electoral districts. And still in Guyana, Minister of Public Telecommunications Catherine Hughes says there is adequate evidence of voter irregularity uncovered during the national recount of the March 2 elections. She was responding to the submitted report from Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield to the GECOM, which said the polls lacked credibility. Kellen Rover of InfoHub reports.
I was not surprised because we literally had over 30 days of everyday live updates and reports of a range of anomalies, which I think by the final day had exceeded 8,100 and something. So I was not surprised, and I think that what is very important is considering we can't just go with the numbers. We have to look at the quality and the integrity of the process.
Minister of Public Telecommunications, the Honorable Catherine Hughes. The CEO report submitted Saturday last has indicated that the March 2 general and regional elections lacked impartiality and fairness. Notably, these findings of irregularities range from missing certificates of employment and oaths of identity that are required by electors voting without ID cards. Instances of electors voting with oaths of identity but were not listed under the OLE, and cases where some ballot boxes were found with extra ballots or without the requisite documentation were also identified.
I think that fundamentally the process has been shown to be to lack the integrity that is absolutely required with an election of this importance, and any election.
Minister Hughes said these unlawful issues emerging from the recount exercise substantiate the claims of electoral fraud made by the Partnership for National Unity Alliance for Change coalition. Among other cases detected, the Public Telecommunication Minister reminded of the over 8,000 instances of fraud affecting 1,222 of the 2,339 total ballot boxes.
These 8,000 plus that we have found are anomalies that we are aware of. That's what we've actually seen. As I said to you, these ballot boxes have been doing a very good job of speaking. And if you consider that, we know of 8,000, how many more were we just unable to catch?
Minister Hughes underscored the importance of Guyanese knowing the truth of the ongoing recount process. For InfoHub, I am Kellon Rover.
In sports, there is a renewed call for players' union to be formed locally, as is the case for a number of players and clubs worldwide. The impact of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic has raised questions about players' job security. And former national striker and Stively Gardens player Newton Sterling, who has always wanted to make the move, says there is one stumbling block: players lacking the courage to push for such an initiative. Trade unionist Helene Davis-White explains that fear of losing their jobs and victimization could be why local players may be hesitant to make the move. Recently, salaries of players were slashed by 50% to cope with the COVID-19 pandemic, a stark contrast to other jurisdictions where consultations take place. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thank you so much for watching.